It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Hello, everyone, and happy Monday. Nielsen, Gager, and Tommy Gazzola with you here on Two Guys and a Goalie. It's always brought to you by our friends at CoolBet. You can visit them at coolbet.com. You can go bet on the Stanley Cup Final right now. And if you have not signed up for an account yet, when you do, just use the code 2GUYS, the number 2, and the word guys. Two Guys and a Goalie, or the Pit Stop Pals oil stream. That's kind of what I'm feeling right now, is two worlds collide. Even I got the orange name for Tommy Oil Stream. Gager, we got the red, what we do for Pit Stop Pals. It's a nice colliding of the worlds, especially, Tommy, after you won the F1 pool this weekend.
Unbelievable. My team has like life in it now. It's a bad team, but you know what? Tim Hraney told me to stick with it with McLaren, and he likes some of my other picks. And obviously Verstappen's had a good season, and so here we are. We're resurrecting my terrible team.
Bold strategy, Gager, to stick with it with McLaren. I'll say that right now.
Yeah, I wanted to put the meme with Jason Bateman with the bold strategy, Cotton. See if it works out for him. So,
thank you.
But yeah, Tommy, you're out of the basement, which is nice to see.
Feels good.
We went over it at length yesterday, Dusty and I, of the weekend, and looking forward to. Well, I'm not really. I hope my wife doesn't hear this, but it's Father's Day isn't Father's Day for Father's Day, as you don't know this, Tommy, but it's a day that you do a bunch of shit that your family wants you to do. It's if you were to do a poll of 98% of all fathers, they would say, just leave me alone and let me just give me a 6-pack and a sandwich and let me watch TV all day and don't bother me. And that it would be perfect. That's all. Every father I talk to, that's all this. But I got too much stuff. And if there was ever a race to happen, it's in the afternoon. I have commitments to go to. So yeah. I don't know. We're it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for me this week.
Yikes.
I love the fact that you're like, I hope my wife isn't watching, but I got to bring this up because yesterday I get home from being gone for 3 days. We go out, sit down on the patio for a little bit. You know, I want to make everybody happy. I just got home, and for Father's Day next Sunday, Tam goes, hey, it's Father's Day next Sunday. And basically whatever came out of her mouth next, I was going to be like, yeah, sounds good. And she goes, and to be honest with you, in a million years, I would have never thought this would have been what came out of her mouth next. But I just hopped in. She goes, would you like to go to the circus? And I was just like, Gager knows. I said, right away, yeah, that sounds good. And she goes, really? I said, yeah, totally. And then, 5 minutes later, we were still in the conversation about going to the circus. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to fucking go to the circus on Father's Day. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't. Like, I want to watch the race. I want to sleep in. I want to watch the race. And after the race, I want to go golf with some other dads. Like, that's what I want to do. But you're right, Gager. So I'm probably going to spend part of Father's Day at a circus with a crowd of people that I can't stand. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have a circus here?
Yeah. Oh, it's a circus. It's called Father's Day.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck.
Who does that? Who has a circus scheduled on a Father's Day? Like,
yeah, that's true.
God.
That is a great point. Who's the smart ass that scheduled a circus in town on Father's Day knowing that all of us were going to get sucked into this thing? And let's be honest, I don't want to I've never seen the circus. I don't even know what company it is. But the bottom line is, it's probably not that great a circus anyway. If it's here in Edmonton in June, there's probably a better place it could be if it was a good circus. So I'm going to go watch a shitty circus on Father's Day.
It's either a brilliant marketing move because they know all the dumb schmucks like Dusty and I have to say yes to these things, and they know they don't, or some vindictive old father that had to do shit for 50 years that he didn't want to. You know what? I'm gonna have a circus on Sunday and look at all you bastards having a terrible time and laugh.
You guys think there's any way I can get out of this?
No,
I don't
committed.
think so.
No way.
But it's my day. It's my day to do whatever my family wants. That's basically what Father's Day is. So
Drop an edible, Dusty.
Yeah.
You're right.
Great idea.
Just a sec. That's gonna be the name of the episode. Drop a circus edible. That'll be episode 231 or whatever the hell we're on. All right, let's get into the biggest story today in Edmonton, and that would be Mikko Koskinen, no longer an Edmonton Oiler, as he is signed with HC Lugano. And Gager, you texted the little group chat we had going today, and let's just be honest, this guy played this perfectly, didn't he?
I don't know what Mikko did in a prior life, but he must have saved lives, maybe a Navy SEAL or something. He rescued thousands of children from a burning building at some point. I don't know, but what a charmed life. What, 15 mil, 4 years, didn't deserve a few of those pennies, but come on, let's be real. He should have. We all made the joke. He thought it was 4.5 over the whole 3 years, not per year.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, Dusty, Tommy, we rave about Davos. You know what's pretty close to second is Lugano, Switzerland. Go into the Google machine, put in Lugano, and look up images to where this bastard's going to be playing hockey next year. And it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. I don't know who his agent is. I needed that guy years ago.
Oh wow!
I'm completely jealous. Wow. This guy's a charmed life. Good for him, but God, am I just jealous right now.
You know what Lugano looks like? It looks like it should have a Grand Prix. It looks like there should be the Switzerland GP should be in Lugano.
Ooh.
I'm looking at it right now. This is nuts.
I went there for training camp in my Swedish team for like 5 days. It's like Kelowna on steroids. It's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. It's a big lake. I can't even. Go ahead, Tommy. You talk. I gotta calm down.
As you collect yourself. I mean,
good for him.
Yeah,
Jeez.
good for him. I mean, some people would probably look and be like, "Hey, he had to spend 4 years at Edmonton. He makes up for it by going to Lugano, and he was in Russia before that." But yeah, he got the sweetheart contract, and then I'm gonna have to look up Lugano right away. I have an idea listening to you describe it, and
it looks amazing. It looks like Monaco, but Switzerland version. That's kind of what it looks like. It looks insane. It looks like a place where if somebody said to you, "Hey, you've totally made way more money than you should have playing hockey, and now you can just go to the coolest city ever to play for the rest of your career," it looks like this would be the place that you would choose.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Amazing.
Good for
him.
Mikko Koskinen.
Yeah.
After all that abuse he took, he put up good numbers. Not a clutch goalie, and Bob Hartley kind of spilled the beans a couple weeks ago, right in the middle of the playoff drive, and here we are. So I thought that was nice that they already had him in his jersey and his gear with the little pose, and I'm like, off into the sunset he goes. Bye Mikko. And yeah, you were just raging, and you continued that rage minutes ago, Gager. You're gonna be okay, pal. You're going to be okay.
He's going to enjoy it until Mike Smith decides to come over when he's 42 and takes the job from him.
It's just, it's Father's Day coming up. Mikko doing what he did. I'm just in a bad mood.
Okay, so let's play this game. When somebody says to you 10 years from now, what was the most memorable Mikko Koskinen moment? Tommy, let's throw it to you first, buddy. What's the one moment that really stands out for you with Mikko Koskinen?
There isn't one. I'll always remember watching him in the first day of training camp being like, wow, that guy's huge. And then 5 minutes later being like, wow, he lets in a lot of soft goals. I'll always remember that.
I remember you telling me that. I should maybe be like, man, Koskinen is massive, but he's letting in some really soft goals.
Yeah. That's what'll stand out to me. I can't think of anything in particular. I think of the gaffes. I remember in New York at MSG where he played the puck. Mike Smith had a million gaffes playing the puck. So, but with Mikko Koskinen, I don't know, him getting the start in the bubble after Mike Smith kind of faltered, and then the Oilers relying on Koskinen. To me, it is him at training camp and me going, that guy's a giant. And oh my God, why are those pucks always squeaking through him, even though they hit him? and they go in, and it always was a thing for Mikko Koskinen. Clutch goals that got scored, like he couldn't come up clutch. That was something that I'll always remember. And he's a very nice guy. How about that? He's a very nice guy. And I'll always remember Maddie kind of going after him hard to start the season as well. And then apologizing, and Mikko putting his hand on Maddie's shoulders saying, "That's okay.
It's okay, Matty."
Yeah.
Gager, what about you, buddy? What anything jump off the page from Mikko?
There's a lot, especially in the last few hours, but I think the fact that the signing of the contract was just I thought it was an absolute joke.
Yep.
I didn't understand the term, the amount with the sample size that he had, because he was very pedestrian with his play. There was some good games, I could see that, but that nothing that warranted a 3-year deal at 4.5. Like that was just, and I think I did when back in the day when guys signed contracts that were too good for their skill set, we always had the standing joke of putting a bandana on and going into the GMs with guns ablazing. And I had the meme of John Wick like cocking a gun and running into a room, and that was Mikko's agent at the time going in there and holding Chiarelli at gunpoint for him to put this deal together, because it was just done. And the second one was the glove, the issues with Mikko's glove and the memes that followed it, and they had just just the massive glove that he was going to use going into the next season, right? That was really funny. But I mean, he had some great games. I heard nothing, but unfortunately I never got a chance to meet the guy. But he had some good games, and he'll always be remembered. It's too bad that he didn't get more shutouts, Dusty, because that song
was a banger. Was a banger. Like when I look back on it, I mean, obviously the Valancomeuse movement, the revolution.
Oh, yes.
That was a big one. We tried to be really nice to him for a while, and still at times you're like, I can't do it anymore. Valancomeuse, they're gonna kill me. It almost became a swear word when it was all said and done. Valancomeuse. Like it was pretty frustrating at that point. But remember when he allowed 4 goals on 4 shots?
Oh yeah.
And remember he was trying to break his stick over the post, and Larson went behind the net and he stopped, and then he tried again, and it was just a mess. It was just a mess. Like that 4 goals on 4 shots, and then the full breakdown after, interrupted by one of his teammates go by. It was just we can laugh now, I guess. You can say that.
Oh
it's
my God.
funny when and fans, Oilers goaltending is getting really poor when fans are saying, "Hey, what are you doing right now, Gager? Are you still got some gear available?" Like that's it's really going bad when people are asking what I'm up to. So, and that happened on a consistent basis, unfortunately, with Mikko.
Hey, he busted that stick. It took a couple of whacks. It was 4 goals on 4 shots against Vancouver, I believe, in 12 and a half minutes. I remember just going on about it on the post-game show. And I'm like, Ed, I'm glad he remembered that it took him a couple of tries to break that stick. That's the type of night it was for Mikko Koskinen.
Couldn't even break the stick properly. Like it was bad. That was a tough night for Mikko Koskinen. So yeah, he had his moments. Gage, you're right on the contract here. I can't believe we spent 15 minutes talking about Koskinen, but he was here for 4 years. The contract, I was on with Struddy when they dropped it, and I said that's a joke. Like you're telling me, I'm not believing it, because if you would have told us at that time, what's more likely, Mikko Koskinen gets a 3-year deal at 4.5 per, or Mikko Koskinen gets a 3-year deal at 4.5 total, I would have told you it was the 3 years at 4.5 total. That's like 1.6 or whatever it is per, or whatever it would have worked out to. Like that would have been more likely at the time. The fact that the Oilers either fully supported it or allowed Chiarelli to sign a deal right before he was fired is one of the most mind-boggling decisions I've seen in this market in 12 years. Tommy, were you still working for the team then, or were you already gone from there then?
No, I was already with us at 1260. Yeah. I remember talking about it on the pre and post game show. And the night that Chiarelli got fired too, that next night where Bob Nicholson told him to just go home midway through the game. Like what a bizarre 2 or 3 days. And then they also made like the Brandon Manning trade, and Chris
man.
Weidman. Like, it was just awful. Like, oh, dude, it was just beyond stupid. Beyond stupid, that sequence of events that happened.
All right, a couple other things to get to on the others. Gager, John Gibson, depending on who you talk to, I know I've seen some people on Twitter say that he would like or be open to a change. I saw somebody else today, they said they just talked to his agent. That's not true. Gibson's been a name that's popped up for a long time. His save percentage the last 3 years has kind of been below the league average, but playing against the Ducks team that's trying to get it figured back out. I don't know how much you've watched John Gibson, Gager, but if he truly does want out of Anaheim and they're willing to move him, is this a guy that you're all horny for coming to Edmonton, or is there some hesitation here or what?
Oh yeah, I'd bring him in. I think if his type of style, I think fits the Oilers mold better. If he's
like
capable of making
steady.
Yeah.
He has a solid foundation, but he also has that ability to make massive saves too. If you've watched any Anaheim games, the only reason they've been in certain situations is because of him, and they couldn't score. So to see him in an Oilers uni with a team that really, for the most part, outscores a lot of their defensive issues, that would be very interesting to me. So they could still play the same type of hockey, which is entertaining, and have a goalie that's equally as entertaining back there, making crucial saves when possible. He's technically a lot better than I think what the Oilers have had for over the last couple of years.
Tommy, they've gone after goalies each of the last couple of years, and they fail at it. They don't get one, and they have to settle back down for Mike Smith and whoever. This year it would be Mike Smith and Stuart Skinner. So I'm sure they wouldn't mind dabbling in it again. Yeah. Do you think this is something that they heavily pursue this offseason, or is it kind of like, let's see who's available and might be willing to come here?
I would think that they would heavily pursue it unless they're told that he's not interested in going to Edmonton. I mean, that's a possibility, unfortunately. That's happened with a couple of guys, too. I heard Holtby didn't want to come to Edmonton. We heard Marc-Andre Fleury didn't really like the idea of coming to the Oilers as well. So that's a reality. He's an American guy. He's a hell of a goalie. Like, he would be so good for them. And I know that he's been on Oilers fans' radar forever, and rightly so, of course. Like, he's so good, and he's just kind of toiling away in Anaheim on a pretty good contract. So, yeah, if there's a way, or if you see some daylight and you're Ken Holland, you think, you know what, I might be able to make this happen. Hell yeah, go for it. Swing away, because that would solve a monster problem. Because I know next season, or in a couple months when we start talking about next season, we'll definitely be going on and on about the goaltending, good or bad.
Gager, if they roll out next year to camp with Mike Smith and Stuart Skinner, can you take them seriously? Like, can you look at the Oilers and go, oh, they should 100% get back to where they did this year? Like, I guess it probably comes down to the play of Skinner and the health of Smith, but I just kind of see that as the likely scenario right now. So what are we thinking if that is in fact the case?
Well, if that ends up being the case, I think right away you have to implement the 1-and-1 rule with both of them. I mean, doesn't matter if one gets a shutout, the next guy's playing the next night, and just have that rolling. Because although I think Skinner is capable, just with his age, of playing more games, just in the NHL level, that's just a little bit too overwhelming for him. And as we saw, when Mike Smith does play closer to that 35 to 40 games, he's a much more effective goalie, and you're gonna have to do that with his age and how he plays. He's gonna need the rest too. So I would just have the kind of the Bill Belichick, like, first 5 plays kind of thing. Okay, these are the next 10 games, 1-1-1-1-1, and no matter what, you do not stray from that, even if a guy's like, and just keep that going. Because if it comes to that, because I just don't think that you can play one guy over the other if that's the case with Skinner and Mike Smith.
I still think that they're going to have to bring in another, like, tweener goalie, veteran guy, like Louis Domingue type, that can play some games and hopefully slides through waivers.
Yeah, but if he starts playing well, he probably won't go through waivers if another team's sucking, right? So that's a tough thing to do, is have a safety valve with a third goalie. What happens if he gets his numbers look great and you got some team that's struggling? They're going to pick him up. It's especially with injuries. But you can't have, I don't think there's a handful of, not even a handful, there's just a few goalies that are capable of playing 60 games. You can't, and because you look at all the guys that got injured, Freddie Anderson, Soros, like these guys that play all these games, they get to playoffs and their legs fall off. So,
Yeah.
and that case with the Oilers, you have to have an even split, I think.
All right, let's dive into this Josh Anderson speculation a little bit. I know, Stoff's been talking about him quite a bit. Maddie, there had been something that popped up from Matheson, who said he suggested trading Bourgault and a first round pick. And I talked about it on my show today, and Maddie slid into my DMs and was like, I don't think I said that. I said, well, I think it's out there. So I sent him the link, and he goes, okay. He goes, my mind has changed on it. I don't know if I'd be willing to do that anymore. I was just like, that's fine. People can change their minds. It was a few months ago when he did that article. I kind of went off on it a little bit today because, I don't hate the idea of Josh Anderson, the player, even if he is very consistent. And I honestly believe if Montreal can move him out, somebody's doing him a favor for the next 5 years at $5.5 million. But far as the fit goes for the Oilers, I get it. I mean, he's a big guy who scores goals, and when he's motivated to, he can crash and bang as well. But I just feel like if you don't have a lot of cap space anyway, I'm not too sure how you're justifying going after a guy like Anderson unless you're full-blown moving Tyson Barrie and something else, and I don't know how much you should actually give up for Josh Anderson. So, Tommy, do you think these are viable discussions, or do you think this is just one or two people in the market who kind of like him as a player and are trying to make it a viable discussion?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. It's been a couple of days. I've had a chance to let it simmer a little bit. It, to me, was a surprise, and I have to do a little bit more digging to see what the Oilers are thinking. I'm supposed to do that sometime this week, so thank you for the reminder. I like the idea of Josh Anderson because of the way he plays. Now, how realistic do I think it is? Like 30% chance? Like, I don't know. Not a great chance. Like, I obviously Montreal's trying to move some guys out. I've heard Brendan Gallagher is available. There's an interesting piece, although he doesn't really. I'd rather have an Anderson over a Gallagher, just looking at the Oilers and the makeup. And if you're going to lose Evander Kane, big body guy who can score and who can crash and bang, geez. Well, Josh Anderson is a guy that kind of can do that to the same effect as Evander Kane. No, but still, that's a good player to have. But I don't know what it takes to make that happen.
Yeah, I think people kind of just want him to be Evander Kane, and Josh Anderson is not Evander Kane. No. Gager, where do you come out on this?
Well, yeah, they're trying to replace Evander Kane, right? I think that's what they're looking at. But what did they mention? They mentioned Alex DeBrincat, and I'm just looking right now.
Apparently is. Yeah. I mean, he's completely opposite of Kane, but he's a sniper. Like that. Yeah. That dude is a goal scorer.
Yeah, and but
once again, how do you pay these guys?
Yeah, what is he? 6'4", right? AV. So that's it's just the Oilers are. That cost, well, I guess the Koskinen deal came off, but man, did that hamper them from getting someone a long time ago. Josh Anderson, great player, gritty, hits, bangs, can score like those 4 to 5 foot goals that are needed, I think, and that's what Kane provided. But the other thing that scares me about him is his durability too, right? He seems to get injured a lot. There's a lot of wear and tear on that body. I like him as a player. I see what they're trying to do there, but I don't know. I'd like to see what Dylan Holloway can provide if he can kind of slip into. I mean, it's not going to be a Kane role, but what type of player he is before you start looking at that.
All right. One more piece of Oilers news that I do want to get to before we move on, and that is Frank Saravalli had it. And that's Zach Kassian. He's at the top of Frank Saravalli's buyout list. And Tommy, I know we talked a little bit about this on the Oil Stream last week. Gager, do you think Kassian is at a point where you'd rather buy him out and pay him not to play for you than to pay him the $3.2 million now to continue to play for you?
I think it depends on what the status of the other players that are unsigned right now and what that kind of looks like. It's tough because Kassian's that type of player that you know what he's capable of, and you're waiting for that to happen. Just with some physical play, but it's just too inconsistent right now. But to see him getting bought out and have that extra, I mean, it's not a ton of dead cap space, but
No.
where the Oilers are situated, it does just hinder them just enough, I think. And to have a serviceable body in that bottom six, I think you might have to eat that right now, Dusty.
Yeah, it would be about like 700 this year. The next year, you'd be 1.8 mil on your cap, which is not ideal. And then after that, it's less than $1 million each of the last 2 years. Tommy, when you see Frank put him at the top of his list, and Frank's kind of in the know on a lot of this stuff, does it change your mind maybe at all from what we discussed on Oil Stream last week?
I mean, if Frank's putting it out there, it probably has some legs, because Frank doesn't put out BS. He's not all about stirring the pot just to stir the pot. So maybe that's something that is being discussed. I don't necessarily like it. Ideally, Zach Kassian, like Gager said, would just be an effective player like he was when he got this contract. But he's bad at getting the puck out of his own zone. Yeah. He makes dumb plays, doesn't show up, doesn't play on special teams. And pardon me. And this is a deal that Kenny Holland gave him. Like what are you going to do here? So I know that they tried to shop him around a year or two ago. No takers, obviously.
There's not a market there.
Yeah. So and the other thing too is, like, you hear buyout options and this and that. It's like, okay, I understand. Like, if you look at Zach Kassian and you're going down the roster, you go, all right, he's a black hole on the roster, or he's dead weight, whatever if the naysayers want to describe him as that. Do the Oilers really want to get into another buyout situation where, they still have James Neal on the books? I think Andre Sekera might still be on there, and they just finished up Benoit Pouliot, I think, of Milan Lucic. Like, all these guys, like, they've had dead cap space from buyouts, and now you want to add another one on there. Like, I think, just from an Oilers standpoint, I don't think that they want to be paying guys not to be on the team anymore, because they've had a bunch of them, and I think they want to relieve themselves of that situation. So with Frank putting him up there, there's probably some legs to it. Does it surprise me a bit? Yeah, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Lucic, they got $750 retained this year on him, and then $3.4 million in cap space for the buyouts to James Neal and Sekera. So not an ideal situation to be thrown. I mean, the $2.5 million in cap space for this year might not be a bad idea. But then getting hit with a 1.8 cap hit next year for nothing. That basically, you get out of Sekera at the end of this year and you're into Kassian for 1.8 next year. So I'll be interested to see how they handle that moving forward. But let's slide over to the Stanley Cup final, and it's a great matchup. Colorado Avalanche, Tampa Bay Lightning. Tommy, let's start with you on this one. You're the guest here today. What's the biggest storyline, or what's the biggest difference, the advantage one way or the other in this series? What's kind of popping up in your mind as something that we should really be talking about over the next couple days?
Yeah, let's see how the offense of the Avs gets after Andrei Vasilevsky and Victor Hedman. I know Hedman did take that shot to the head and he slammed his stick. So curious to know what the status of some of these guys is going to be. But, like, the high-powered, high-flying offense that we saw Edmonton get dummied by the Avs, how does it go up against Vasilevsky and the D of the Tampa Bay Lightning? This is a championship caliber team, obviously. Third straight trip to the Stanley Cup final. So I want to really watch and see how Vasilevsky holds up against McKinnon, Rantanen, maybe even if Kadri's coming back, Landeskog, all of these guys, Makar, and for whatever reason, I feel like Tampa has a good chance in this series. They just know how to win, guys.
Man, that last game was fun to watch. Tampa, their play in the defensive zone, their D-men are so good at still making plays under pressure, like tape to tape plays. Mm-hmm. If you want, like, if you had that game, like I recorded that game and watched the third period, and the plays that the defensemen were making with making tape-to-tape passes to get the puck out of the zone under pressure was unbelievable. And the Tampa Bay forecheck and creating turnovers and good sticks through the neutral zone they're the best team in the league at doing that. It's unbelievable. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to implement that against a team like the Avs that create offense from the back end so well with Cale Makar and stuff. And it's going to be really interesting. I think it does come down to goaltending at the end of it all, but also there's a little bit of coaching there too, right? You're going to have a guy that's been there for a long time to a new guy coming in. Like, I don't know if you watched the savage move John Cooper did when Stamkos takes that bad penalty and he looks at him coming back after the Rangers scored and pointed at him. I'm pretty sure it's him. But he says, "That's on you." And to tell arguably one of your best players, a future Hall of Famer, captain, that you fucked up, and then your captain goes out and goes, "Well, screw it, I'm gonna go score the winning goal." That was just like, I was like, holy smoke, the cojones on John Cooper to treat your superstar like that. I got to give the edge to Tampa if that's the case. And that's how he responds, by going and getting a goal because the coach just reamed you out. That was awesome, man. I had chills going down my spine after seeing that play.
You know what's interesting with this series, and I do think it comes down to goaltending as well. And I mean, I'm taking Vasilevsky 100 days out of 100 days. I had somebody texted into the show today and says, "Dusty, I'd rather have Vasilevsky than both Kemper and Francouzin at the same time." So, I mean, but it's not far off. I mean, I think it's such a significant advantage. If you look at the one thing going into that Oilers-Avs series that we all talked about, Cale Makar. Can't match Cale Makar. Can't match Cale Makar. But when you got Victor Hedman on the other side, and if he's able to handle the workload that he's able to usually handle, and obviously he took some shots in that last series, then you've got as close to an equalizer as you're possibly going to get. Like, Victor Hedman is an elite stud franchise defenseman, and he's going to be going up against one as well. You've got this forward group. They're both insanely dynamic. I find one of the interesting things is that, a lot of times you look at it going into a series and a team would have just won one Stanley Cup and you're like, it'd be nice to go back to back, but it's kind of, they could be tired and everything. But when you have a chance to put together a three-peat in the Cap era, I mean, Tampa's going to want this just as much as Colorado does for the first time. Colorado's never been there before, but Tampa's trying to do something that nobody has done in a long, long, long time. And we've seen a lot of really good teams in the last 15, 20 years, and nobody's been able to put together the three in a row. And maybe it's fitting that one of the teams that can do it can get around the cap a lot with their tax situation down there. Maybe that's one of the reasons that they're able to do it. But Tommy, there's a ton on the line here. Like, Tampa Bay, if they win, are going to be going down as one of the dynasties in the history of the National Hockey League. Chicago couldn't do it. Pittsburgh couldn't do it. These guys might be able to.
Yep, and this is after offseason where they had to retool quite a bit. Left after last year's Cup, and they reloaded, and it worked. So it's incredible. And Julian Brisebois and John Cooper, like, obviously, Gage, you point out the thing with Stamkos and Cooper, like, there's obviously trust there. And those guys, appreciate each other. And I remember Glenn Anderson telling me one time we were doing a documentary, the 84 reunion documentary, and we're asking about the 84 team and then if it was the best Oilers team. And a lot of the guys, and Anderson said it too, he's like, no, the 88 team was the best. And I was like, why? He's like, yeah, we didn't have all the personal accolades. We weren't as good in the regular season as the years prior. But, like, when we got to the playoffs and to the Cup final, we just knew how to win. And I think Tampa's kind of like that right now. They just know how to win. They know what it takes. And here we are again. And that's why I think they have a really good shot at winning this, even though it is a really good Avs team that they're about to face.
They don't lose when Tom Brady's in there. So I blame Tom Brady. And since I didn't have Tampa winning, but since he came out of retirement and went back to the Bucks, they're going to win again.
Yeah, I've got just a few comments. Flicker George is saying, what about the Corey Perry curse? He's lost the last 2 Stanley Cups, but that was
All
to
right.
Tampa. I mean, this guy figured it out. Was like, man, if I want to get one, I got to go to Tampa. C. Campson says, that's right. Always count out the Avs. That's what it is in this series. And Jackson says Avs in 6. So there's a lot of support there for the Avs. It's interesting because the Avs are a minus 186 favorite with our friends over at Coolbet. Tampa Bay can get as a plus 147 dog. I think you're probably going to see a bunch of money come in on Tampa and probably move that line a little bit. Tommy, do you see technically, do you view one of these teams as a favorite heading into this thing, or is this one too close to call?
I understand why the Avs are picked as the favorite, but to me, it's Tampa's going to win this thing. Like, their ability to get it done can't be overlooked. And yes, there's a ton of talent, and Nathan McKinnon's a beast, and he's hungry for a championship. Landeskog, I get that. And if it does come back to goaltending, like we talked about earlier, boys, Tampa's got hands down the better goalie. They might have better defense too. It's just, do they have as high power offenses as the Avs? Not necessarily, but it's pretty damn good. So I think it's Tampa, and I'm not that surprised that people have the Avs, but don't count out the Lightning. Don't count them out.
Yeah, you said on your show this morning, Dusty, that kind of laying out who the Avalanche have faced in net over the past 3 series, and it looked very sketchy when Binnington was playing, because he was stealing. They were getting playoff type goaltending, right? Binnington gets hurt, Husso goes in, struggles, but man, he was starting to get his feet under him in that series, and got a win and started rolling there. So, and Mike Smith was very average at best against him in the conference final. Yeah. So now they're going up against the big cat, man. That guy, it's disgusting. You can't get into an elimination situation. Like, you have to, don't get into that with him, because he's automatic. He's lights out. I mean, he almost had that ridiculous streak go. It took a unbelievable shot to get one past him by the Rangers, so you have to give the edge to Tampa. And there's too many things. And if Braden Point comes back, that's it, game over, because I don't think Kadri will be able to come back. I think he's done for the year, but they're talking like Point might be back by Saturday, right? So that's it's going to be a great series, don't get me wrong. I think it's going to go 6 at least, right? But man, pretty cool.
I can't remember. I'm really excited for this series. Like, I think as far as the 2 teams that you want to see, these are your 2 teams who are your odds to win it favorites, 1 and 2 at the beginning of the year, and now we get them going against each other. And we laid out Vasilevsky. I think in the end, goaltending's going to win. Vasilevsky can't lose to Francouz and Kemper. I would be stunned. I know it's simplifying it so much, but also the Tampa Bay Lightning on one pair have Victor Hedman, on another pair have Ryan McDonough, and on another pair have Sergachev. That's a tough thing to overcome. Like, no matter what moment you're out there, they've got a stud defenseman, in my opinion, on the ice with them. So they've got some depth there on the blue line that might end up being an advantage in this series as well. Either way, it should be a good one. Really looking forward to it. Very good episode today, boys. Tommy, thanks a lot for sliding in here, buddy. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
Tommy, with that European svelte body, you'd fit in quite nicely on the beaches of Lugano. I'm just saying. So
I'm gonna have to Google it, and maybe I should have made friends with Mikko. And unlike what some people thought, I ran him out of town or didn't like him. Maybe I should call in a
You
favor.
did hate the Valencamoose. You really did. Yeah.
Valencamoose 890. That more like it. 920.
One last blow from Tommy G. Hey, before we wrap up, couple of things obviously trending on Twitter today. Connor McDavid, bad look, shitty morning for him. There's no doubt about that. Let's see how that plays out. Any thoughts on Sammy Blais referring to his own sister as sexy? Where do we come out on this? Tommy, is this a cultural thing, or this doesn't make a lot of sense to me?
First of all, she's a very nice looking girl. Absolutely. But I don't know why I wouldn't if I had a sister, I wouldn't call her sexy. You know,
I got 2 sisters. Not once in my life have I ever been like, "Hey, looking sexy, sis." That's a strange one to me.
Even my brothers. I love my brothers. Like I think they're good-looking guys, but I'm not walking around like my brother is sexy.
You see Paulie? He is sexy. He's a sexy boy. Yeah.
Ooh. No, that's a really weird one. And I saw some people suggested maybe it's like a Quebec thing, but I'm like, that seems weird, even if Quebecers are more liberal with the term sexy, if you will. Probably shouldn't have said that.
Gager?
Yeah, the maybe different choice of words is better with that. That's too I don't know. When Trump refers to his daughter as someone he would like to date, it's creepy. It's creepy.
That was what a weirdo that guy is. Let's wrap up the episode there. Gager, Tommy, thanks a lot for doing this today. Once again, 2 Guys and a Goalie is brought to you by our partners, our wonderful partners at CoolBet. And like we said, to give you some of those numbers there, when we started this podcast, the Lightning were plus 145 Stanley Cup underdogs. So if you want to hop on that right now, it's probably the best number you're going to see between now and puck drop. Boys, I'm actually heading out on a golf trip tomorrow afternoon, so we'll have another episode of 2 Guys and a Goalie again next Monday, and we'll talk to you then, guys.
Good luck, Dusty. Come home safe.
Thanks, buddy.
Father's Day. All right.
I got a circus to go to. See ya.